Please subscribe this new channel youtube.com/yourmalaka to encourage me to continue preservation works on Malacca's past and present events, heritage, history, traditions for the future younger generations.
请帮忙订阅这个新频道 YouTube 看齐弹幕吗？以鼓励我继续努力保留马六甲文化、历史及传统给了新一代的年轻人。
May we invite all the cyclists to join us for the opening ceremony in the museum. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite ladies and gentlemen and all the cyclists to join us for the opening ceremony right in the museum. Thanks so much. Alright, I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, and to all the cyclists, a very good morning. Can I have your attention, please? May I invite all the cyclists, I repeat, all the cyclists to join us for the opening ceremony right in the museum. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite all the cyclists to join us for
The Honorable State Executive Council members, members of the Society in Suku, departments, ladies and gentlemen.
Terima kasih.
It is a privilege and great honor of the Netherlands. Malaysia and Netherlands has a very good relationship in a very long time. Without further ado, let us give a big round of applause and welcome Her Excellency's Kain Mushilakia, the representative of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, to deliver her speech. Please.
Of the Melaka state government, I have to turn this a little bit down because I'm too short, not Dutch sized. Members of the City Council at Melaka Tourism, members of the media, distinguished guests, dear Dutch people around this place, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to speak a few words in Bahasa. And I knew a few words, but it doesn't go that far. You mentioned many people speak Bahasa Indonesia. I never had a posting in Indonesia, unfortunately. And in Malaysia, everyone speaks English so very well. It is difficult actually to learn Bahasa, but I will try, and I heard some members of your parliament will also need to class, so maybe I can join them. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to congratulate very much the new state government, and in particular the new chief minister, once again on your appointment after the historic elections that took place exactly 101 days ago today. The elections in Malaysia were a showcase of democracy and a victory for the people of Malaysia. Malaysian elections have also given hope, harapan, to the world that peaceful transition of government is possible these days, even after 61 years of the same government. The Netherlands stands ready to cooperate with the new Malaysia, Malaysia Baru, and with the new government at the federal level, but also very much at the state level here in Melaka. Melaka is called the historic state, and for a reason, because there are not many places in the world that have such a rich history and that have preserved their history so well as Melaka. Melaka's history goes back to the late 14th century already. Coastal settlement from the early days quickly developed into an important regional trading center. Nowadays we would probably call it a regional hub, and it never ended being a regional hub ever after. It had traders from all over Asia in the beginning, from India, from the Arabic world, from China, and the first Chinese settlers already arrived here in this period. Melaka has been a meeting point and a melting pot of cultures ever since. In the 16th century, also the Europeans started to discover the attractiveness of Melaka. First of all, the word Portuguese, and you can see some actual recollections of that time as well. Arriving in 1511, they took over the rule of the city. The Dutch came to Malaysia later in the early 17th centuries and first established ties with Johor. A friendship alliance with the Sultan of Johor, who was actually a descendant of a Melaka Sultan, was signed around 1604. And in 1641, after several failed attempts, together with Johor, they managed to conquer Melaka from the Portuguese. The Dutch were in Melaka a long time and left behind some marks. Many of the historic sites in the city have a link to or were constructed during the Dutch period. And there are still descendants in Melaka from the early Dutch settlers, families like the Wits and the Westerwouds, and many other families who still have also Dutch sounding last names, but also still have actually some connections to the Netherlands. We are actually highly indebted to one of those descendants, Dennis de Wit, who did a lot of research on the history of the Dutch in Malaysia and especially in Melaka. I don't know if Dennis is here with us yet. No, he's not, but I'm very much proud to mention his name because he's the one who's done most of the research and also led to the flyer that I'm going to present to you later today. Melaka still is a special place for us. It is fascinating to see how many familiar structures there are in this part of the world for us. There are two buildings with names like the Stadhuis, which means town hall in Dutch, and streets called the Younger Street, Heer Street. The square where we are at now actually reminds us of the Dutch market square. It reminds me of my old hometown, so it's a very familiar place for us. There's even a canal here and a windmill, although I have to say I think the windmill was constructed a little bit later and not during the Dutch period. But nonetheless, it's very special to see these historic sites and to feel actually the atmosphere that makes us feel at home, and to see how well preserved they are, thanks to the way the municipality, the city, and the state of Melaka have actually taken up the task of preserving heritage. And that makes it also a humbling experience to be here. It's also a humbling experience because, of course, there were also dark pages in the colonial history, and thinking of the death of many people during the beleaguerance of the city due to hunger and also plague that raged at that time, suppression, slavery. So there were also definitely many dark pages in the history. But the international past and the fact that there were so many international people here actually also turned Malacca into what it is today. The rich history of Malacca, with its many cultural influences, is reflected in the historic city center, and the fact that Malacca got the status from UNESCO as a World Heritage Site 10 years ago. And very much, I think it's very much appropriate that Malacca is high on the list of UNESCO. Today we have the rare occasion to visit many of these historic sites, the heritage sites, the rich sites of Malacca's history, and to do that in a way that we all like as Dutch people. That's why there are so many Dutch people here as well, the Dutch way, by bike. People who have visited the Netherlands, who has visited the Netherlands? Okay, only the last rows, not the front row, so we have to make sure we get more exchanges. But people who have been to the Netherlands, they know that the Dutch actually love to cycle. We love biking. We are a bike-loving country. We have more bicycles than people, and the most dense cycling path network in the world as well. Bikes are the kings of the road in the Netherlands. You will hear a little bit more about that later. But we also like to promote cycling in other countries as a healthy and sustainable means of transport. I hope that the cycling trail will be an inspiration for many people in Malacca to explore the city more often by bike as well. I'm heartened by the many Malaysians, Malaccans who are joining us today as well, showing that there is already a widespread support for cycling in Malacca. Malaccans also seem to be bike-loving people just like the Dutch. And there are many other things that the Dutch and the Malaccans have in common. We are both seafaring people with an international outlook. Both live in multicultural societies. We are both entrepreneurial, we're both traders. And both Malacca and the Netherlands are strategically positioned. The Netherlands, with the port of Rotterdam, as a gateway to Europe, and Malacca very much positioned as a gateway to the ASEAN region. So there are many areas in which we can reinforce each other, port development being one of them, and we discussed that, Honourable Chief Minister, when I was at your office a few weeks ago. I hope we will come to work more closely together in the years to come. And although the focus of today may be on the history, the shared history and the heritage sites, I hope we can also look today at our future cooperation. I very much hope that we can work together to further strengthen our economic ties, our trade and investment relations on a reciprocal basis. That's why I also very much would invite all of you who have not been to the Netherlands to come as quickly as possible. And equally more important, to strengthen the people-to-people context between the Netherlands and Malacca. And I hope that the cycling path that will actually be inaugurated today will also be the invitation for the Dutch people to come and visit Malacca more frequently. Not just Dutch, other tourists as well. I hope we can promote exchanges between tourists from Europe and Malacca and stimulate people to make use of the cycling trail and to come and admire the beautiful heritage of this city. And thus very pleased to be here today to open this trail and launch it together with you, Honourable Chief Minister. It's a special occasion to us. Let me end by thanking everyone who has made this possible today. First of all, Malacca State Government, of course, Malacca City Council, Malacca Tourism, and actually I would like to give a special round of applause to Lim of Malacca Tourism. I know that she doesn't want to, but she's been so helpful, so please can we have an applause for Lim? Malacca Police Department, who are making it possible for us actually to visit all the sites today on bike without having to fear for our lives in the traffic. So that's also very important. Thank you so much. Thank the board of the Malacca Museum that is generously hosting us today and also made this beautiful stand up here. Thank you so much to the museum. And I hope to work together with them for that as well. Thank you to the Dutch Association. Many people were involved, but in the end it was the chairman himself who did most of the work again. Martijn Langhout. Martijn, thank you so much. Mike's Bikes, and we have both Mike and Maurice here. I think Yes, how here? Yes. Who brought the Dutch grandma bikes from the Netherlands to Malaysia and brought them to Melaka here today. So now we can do the tour actually on real Dutch bikes. And they are a startup organizing guided bike tours. So I hope they will be continue to actually be able to continue their work here in Melaka and with Melaka tourism as well. I would like to thank the team of the Netherlands Embassy present with me today. Tosca, Christopher, Jan, Elina, Ravi and Fiona. And above all, I would like to thank the Honorable Chief Minister for hosting this today with us. And accepting to be our guest of honor, because that's what you are. And I feel humbled because you're both our host and our guest of honor. But thank you so much for raising this occasion. Terima kasih, Ravi. Thank you very much and look forward to the rest of the day. Thank you.
Much. Next, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite the Honorable Adli bin Zahari, the Chief Minister of Melaka, to deliver an opening speech. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Thank you, Master of Ceremony, Excellency Garino Zaleta, Ambassador of Netherlands, ESCO member, Bapak Tuan Jalani Kamis, Bapak Tuan Muhammad Sofia Peloka, Member of Parliament, Kota Melaka, Bapak Tu Kuai Tiong, Dato' Haji Azmi bin Hussein, Mayor of Melaka City Council, ACP Niza Ahmad, Chief District Police Officer, Dato' Haji Kamis bin Abbas, General Manager Melaka Museum Board, Mr. Zairi Subuk, General Manager Tourism Melaka, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear cycling friends, salam sejahtera, salam Melaka, berwibawa, pintar, hijau, bersih. Let me wish you a customary Malaysian greeting of Selamat Datang to the historic state of Melaka. A warm welcome to all of you to Melaka Heritage Cycling Event 2018. I'm honored to be invited this morning. Allow me to extend my sincere appreciation to the Melaka City Council, Melaka Museum, Tourism Melaka Cycling Federation, the Dutch Embassy and the Dutch Association for being here today. I'm proud to see the collaborations among Melaka governments, departments to make this event happening. I'm delighted to join you as all this morning at the launch of this new historic cycling trail of Melaka. The trail along the most important heritage site will be published in a flyer and on a website so that more people can enjoy the same route in the future. The flyer and website will invite tourists to enjoy the heritage trail the same way as we will do today. Melaka has seen over 500 years of trading and cultural exchange between East and West in the streets of Melaka, including with the Dutch, who were present in Melaka for almost 2 centuries, from 1641 to 1824, and were responsible for the construction of some of the places along the historic cycling trail that we will visit today. This trail guidance, the trail guides you along many places of interest in the historic city center and will help visitors from here and abroad discover Melaka rich history and the Dutch parts of the history. Melaka is a place where many religions and cultures met and coexisted. This is what makes Melaka so special. Since Melaka was listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site 10 years ago, which was on 7th of July 2008, Melaka has experienced a remarkable growth of tourism and development. UNESCO has described Melaka as a unique architectural and cultural landscape without parallel anywhere in East and Southeast Asia. The combinations of the colorful food and city center indeed make a visit to Melaka worthwhile. One way to make the experience of the UNESCO Heritage City even more unique is to enjoy it by bike. The heritage trails start at the Red Square or the Dutch Square, where you are surrounded by the painted buildings, the red painted buildings. Most notable, the Christ Church and the State Highs. I was told the State High is the duplications of the former town hall of the Frisian town of the Horn in the Netherlands. I went Netherlands 3 times. A lot of bicycle there. The original State House does not exist anymore. However, so Dutch people will have to come and visit Melaka if they want to get a glimpse of what the old town hall is look like. That is what Melaka has to offer, and much more. I hope this event and the Heritage Trail itself will help promote Melaka as a tourist destination. But not only that, I also hope it will help raise awareness of the positive effects of cycling as a sustainable, healthy and efficient means of transport. Finally, today's cycling event will strengthen and cooperation between the Netherlands and Melaka, reinforce our long-lasting ties, and hopefully will be the starting point of the intensified future cooperation in many areas. I'm looking forward to cooperate with the Netherlands in the field of port development, but there may also be potential for cooperation in other areas. For example, the area of sustainable urban transport, especially cycling, the preferred means of transport of the Dutch. In closing, I hope you will enjoy the sight, sounds and tastes of Melaka, Malaysian historical city. Do take home along with you the Malaysian hospitality and culture together with the memories you will be making. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hereby am proud and happy to officially open the Melaka Heritage Cycling 2018. Thank you. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah.
Thank you so much, Chief Minister of Melaka. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are delighted to take part in this event, and we are here to have further understanding on the topic of smart cities, smart transport and bicycle infrastructures. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite Ms. Fiona to present and to share with us the topic of the day.
Thank you very much, Chief Minister, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to stand here before you today and give a short presentation about a topic close to my heart and close to the hearts of many Dutch people, cycling. And perhaps some of the topics I'll discuss are already familiar to the Dutch people here. So there's also the courtyard to take some refreshments, but you're most welcome to stay and listen for a bit. I will focus on the peaceful coexistence between cars, cyclists, and pedestrians. And although I have to say that some people in the Netherlands, and probably most likely the car drivers, don't really agree with that, and they would say that cyclists have taken over the roads and they dominate. But generally, they are quite peacefully coexisting in traffic. And let me just make clear that I'm no expert in the field of urban development and in cycling infrastructure, so I'm happily indebted for this presentation to the organizations of Sustainable Amsterdam and Cyclespace. The theme of optimally using space is especially important to the Netherlands, as we are a very small, densely populated country. we have around 17 million inhabitants, and the size of our country is a little over the size of Baham. So we're very similar to Singapore, as densely populated as Singapore. And when you live in the densely populated country, creating livable spaces is a challenge. But you could look at the Netherlands as the sheet shows you. You could also compare it to metropoles around the world. So you could either look at the Netherlands as a very densely populated country, or you could also look at it as an empty city. And that's how we like to perceive the Netherlands: an empty city, a green urban area where we focus a lot on sustainability and livability of all citizens. And I have lived for about a year now in Malaysia, and the thing I had to get used to the most was actually the fact that the life here is very car-centric. People are very dependent on their cars for transportation, whereas in the Netherlands I would usually grab my bike. And absolutely, Grab is obviously important, very popular. And whereas we use bikes during the weekend for leisure and to sometimes do a guided bicycle tour like the one today, most importantly, bikes are used through everyday life, for transportation, for commuting to work, for picking up the kids from school and picking up groceries. So as you can see here, some of the pictures in the Netherlands taken on the streets. So today, the Netherlands can be characterized as a country where public transport, cars, bikes, bicycles, and pedestrians coexist peacefully. But that hasn't always been the case. We have undergone a considerable change in the last few decades to make the Netherlands more livable and more bicycle-friendly. And I would like to show you the transformation that existed in the Netherlands and that I went through in the last few decades. I'll do it by showing you a clip next and a few pictures where you can see how the city of Amsterdam transformed during the last few decades. Like I said, the bicycle hasn't always been king of the road, and especially after the Second World War, the Netherlands imported a car-centric vision from the United States of America, and especially after the war, with the rapid development and industrialization, cars became increasingly more popular. And that actually forced cyclists and pedestrians out of the city. There was a heavy investment going on in car infrastructure, big roads leading into the cities, and the other road users were actually neglected during those years. The cars actually quadrupled the number of cars between the end of the Second World War and the 1960s. So around the 1960s, about that time, people in the Netherlands demanded a change. They wanted to have more livable cities. They wanted to take a bike to school, have their kids play safely in the streets, use their bikes to go to school. So something had to change. And that demand for a more green and a more bicycle-friendly city got accelerated in the 70s. And it led to a transformation of most cities, and especially the city of Amsterdam. I'll show you a brief clip now.
Place in the world to cycle. That is largely because of the perfect cycling infrastructure that can be found throughout the country. How did the Dutch get this network of high-quality cycle paths? Some think, including many Dutch themselves, that cycle paths have always been there. That is only partly true. Yes, there were some cycle paths, but they were of an entirely different type than today. Narrow, of poor surface, dangerous or even absent at junctions, and not connected. And cycle paths weren't really necessary. Cyclists outnumbered other traffic by far. After World War II, everything changed. The Dutch had to rebuild their country, and they became incredibly wealthy. From 1948 to 1960, the average income got up by 44%, and by 1970 it was a staggering 222% more. People could now afford expensive goods, and from 1957 on especially, this led to many more cars in the streets of mostly old cities that were not built for cars. so buildings were demolished to make room for the car. Even some of the old cycling infrastructure was removed. City squares were turned into car parks. And new developments had huge roads for motorized traffic. The daily travel distance went from 3.9 kilometers in 1957 to 23.2 kilometers in 1975. But this progress came at a terrible cost. Cycling was marginalized, it decreased by 6% every year, and 3,300 lives were lost in 1971 alone. Over 400 of these deaths were children under the age of 14. The slaughter of kids caught people on the streets to protest. Stop the Child Murder called for safer streets for children as pedestrians and cyclists. Their calls were heard. Especially when in 1973 the first oil crisis halted the country. The then Prime Minister told the people of the Netherlands that this crisis was life-changing, that they would have to change their ways and be less dependent on energy, but that was possible without a decrease in the quality of life. Policies to encourage cycling fitted perfectly in that picture. The car-free Sundays to save oil were a reminder to people of what the cities looked like without cars. Around this time, the first city centres were made car-free, permanently, and the protests continued. Mass motorization killed people, the cities, and the environment. Mass cycling tours through the cities of the Netherlands and smaller protests in favor of cycling facilities created an awareness that eventually changed thinking about transport policies. In the mid-1970s, municipalities started experimenting with complete and safe cycle routes away from traffic. Financed by the national government, the first cycle routes were created from scratch in Tilburg and The Hague. In retrospect, they could be seen as the start of the country's modern cycling policies. Cycling increased in a spectacular way, in The Hague by 30 to 60%, and in Tilburg by 75%. Build it and they will come proved true in the Netherlands. The Netherlands has the world's largest.
So the video showed how the Netherlands reversed the trends towards more and more cars and how power was given back to cyclists and pedestrians. I'll now show you just a few pictures of the city of Amsterdam where you can see it before and after. On the left, the before picture, on the right, the after. And this is an example of a busy commercial street where the redesign illustrates an experiment to reduce the amount of cars and parking in the city center. This one of Haarlemmerdijk, again, you can see how the cars have been banned from the city center and how it's more conducive to walking and shopping and cycling. Plantage Middelaan, one of the most dramatic redesigns in Amsterdam in recent years. Over the years, space was taken away from cars and reallocated to drive cyclists and pedestrians. And in the end, cars were completely banned from this area. And finally, Museum Square, the cultural heart of Amsterdam. By its redesign, it turned out to become a true urban living room. And an interesting fact is that underneath the green grass, there's actually a parking garage for cars. So it illustrates how Amsterdam approaches cars. Cars are allowed in the city center, but they think very carefully about where cars can go and where they can't. So after decades of landscaping in Amsterdam, the city has become an example of a very people-friendly city. The estimation is that 60% of all trips are taken either on foot or by bike, and often it doesn't really result in a time loss. The Dutch Cycling Federation has data that actually shows that in cities that have more than 10,000 inhabitants, it is actually quicker to take a bike than a car. And in those cases, on average, cyclists reach their destination 10% faster than people that take a car. So obviously, for many cities, a very efficient mode of transportation. But obviously, even more important than the fact that the streets look visually more appealing is the issue of safety. As mentioned in the clip, there were huge amounts of people that got injured, and then also traffic fatalities in the 1970s. And data shows that since the 1970s, the amount of fatalities in traffic has decreased by more than 80% by 2015, even though our population did increase. The blue line is our population and the red line is the amount of traffic fatalities. And to indicate what it means for child deaths, in 1971, over 400 children died in traffic, and last year there was 16. Safety of people, regardless of their mode of transport, is one of our key priorities. But obviously, sometimes it provides us with some challenges. With more bikes than people, you can imagine that there's a need for a lot of parking space for the bicycles, and especially near to public transport, because that connectivity between bikes and public transport is key in our traffic policy. And keeping up with the need to park bikes and connected to infrastructure is one of the key priorities over the last few years. I'll show you just a few pictures of, this is actually a fairly organized bicycle parking space. It's somewhat less. It can be worse in the cities, and often you end up with streets being clogged with bicycles, so definitely a point of attention for our city designers. An interesting development in that regard is that in the city of Utrecht, next to the central station, the municipality is building an underground bicycle park, 3 floors, and by the end of this year, over 12,000 bicycles can be parked there. I'll briefly show you a clip of what it looks like, just to give you a bit of a glimpse. The municipality started separate lanes for pedestrians or cyclists. Just let me conclude, because I don't want to stand in the way of the cycling event and its start. What I wanted to share with you today was the example of the truck, not just the car drivers. So we continue to build on our relationship with Melaka. We stand ready to work together to make Melaka an even more
Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Carry on, Jackson.
You know, right? The name is Golu. Yes, I know very much. Yeah,
Yes. Alright, please be ready. All cyclists. And ladies and gentlemen.
Which is the heritage part of Malaysia, which runs this place today. Merchants built the villas further up the street. But with the exchange of territories with the British, when the Dutch gave up Melaka and left Melaka most.
You are now at the Jonker Street. 300 years ago, the Dutch traders, they were all staying here. It's being called the Jonker Straat. It means Nobleman Street. And here, right now, for the half a kilometer length, Jonker Street, you can see the mixture of the Dutch and the Chinese architecture, the buildings here, and carry going night market here. And right now on my right, there is a Harmony Street, place of worship for the Indian temple within the 200 meters premise. Okay, the southern part of the Melaka River. Here on the northern part, there were the traders and the peasants. We take a good photos here. Was from Amsterdam. And they built a fortress here, 1.7 kilometers around the hill, 20 feet high and 8 feet thick. 40 years ago, it was the Straits of Malacca. And this fortress was...
And videos, we bring a lot of inside people to a peaceful city. Okay, now we are at the okay, this is Catholics. So what they did is that they turned and they have only about 38 Christians. And for your information, not many Dutch are here, only 5 of them. There are 33 of them.
Please subscribe this new channel youtube.com/yourmalaka to encourage me to continue preservation works on Malacca's past and present events, heritage, history, traditions for the future younger generations.
请帮忙订阅这个新频道 youtube.com/yourmalaka 以鼓励我继续努力保留马六甲的文化、历史及传统，为了新一代的年轻人。